Okay, Assalamu alaikum everyone, and thank you Seerah Education Foundation for organizing today's event, and Jazakallah, thanks to the Masjid for hosting it, and to all of you for attending this event. My name is Faisal Azeem, and I'm part of a parents group, a volunteers group in Ajax, and we are just working on this subject that we are going to talk about today. I'm going to share some slides with you, talk about some details. On some slides I will try to go quick, and if you have any questions, please do keep those. Remember to ask those in the end when we will have a Q&A session. So why are we here? We all know today's topic is addressing the modern social challenges for kids. What are those challenges that we are going to talk about today? So last year, there was a lot of noise about school curriculum changes, and people were worried about what's happening, and there were changes that were deemed to be sexual in nature. They were age inappropriate, and they were against the religion. And when we say religion, it was all religions, not just Islam. So everybody was worried about it, and in our community also, parents started talking about that. We started having meetings, regular meetings, to discuss what we know, what we could share with each other, and what we could find out, not only what is happening, but also what we can do to address that. So there were regular meetings of parents throughout the year we did it, and we found some details that were disturbing. And it was the problem that we found was wider, deeper, and much older than what we thought. So what it is? So we found that this is indoctrination of kids happening for SOI Ideology. What is SOI Ideology? SOI stands for Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity. This is a fancy name of the LGBTQ activism, the agenda that is being pushed forward under this name. You also hear another term called woke in USA mostly. Here in Canada, you hear more about SOGI. What is that doing? So this is an ideology that actually sexualizes kids. It creates gender confusion among kids in the name of diversity, inclusion, human rights, and school safety. So what it does is they are actually doing they are doing brainwashing of kids on the gender transformation, telling kids something that you don't actually want kids to hear about at that age, especially. And this is not the same as sex education. There was a lot of talks about sex education a few years ago, but this is different. With that, you could opt out. With this, you cannot opt out. There is no way you can opt out. If kids are in the class, these things come in different subjects. It's not a subject anymore. This is something which is part of everything, all the activities and all subjects. Science, math, social studies, English, doesn't matter what subject the teachers are teaching. There could be something related to this agenda in that particular subject. When doing some activities, it could be part of that. So there is no opt-out. Okay. Not just that, this is actually which is everywhere. It's not just in schools. It's everywhere. And when we say everywhere, I mean everywhere. So whether the kid is going to a public school or not going to a public school, or even not going to anywhere, these things are coming from so many directions. So this is impacting all kids regardless of what school system they are in. They are being impacted right now. Even if your kids are going to Islamic schools, those kids are being impacted, and we'll talk about it how. So even the kids who are good kids who go to madrasas, they are still impacted. So the brainwashing is still impacting all kids. So this is happening in libraries. It's happening through social media, through YouTube, through different educational programs, some different educational videos. So shows happening in public spaces, everywhere. Sometimes you will find it, sometimes you won't find it because you won't be able to spot it, but it's there. Just because we don't have the basic information on how these things are propagated, there are things in front of us and we sometimes cannot spot out until we start thinking about it. So how are they doing it? One fancy and word again like diversity, inclusion, school safety, you cannot argue about that. Those are all good things. But what are they doing? They are using those as cover for something else. Same thing, choice. It's a very good thing. You always have a choice. You should always have a choice. But what are they doing? They are using this choice to push forward something else. So what they are telling kids is, well, you can choose to be whatever you want. Sounds very good. But what they are telling is, you can choose to be whatever means whatever. Not your career, but you can be any gender. You can choose to be identified as any gender. He, she, you can use any pronouns for yourself, and you don't need parental consent, and parents don't need to be aware of that. So this is what they are trying to do. And it's not the same in every school or in every class. It's different from school to school. Sometimes it could be in one school, sometimes it could be in another school, in one class or in some classes. It depends on school, principal, teachers. It depends on many things. There are many variables. In some schools, there were even forms given to kids. Those forms that had different columns saying what pronouns you want to be used for yourself. At home, one column, and in the schools, another column. It was even in grade 1 in one case. And it means that if a child wants to say, okay, I want to be called of male at home, but a female in school, you don't have to tell their parents, and the parents don't know what's happening in school. So this is done in the name of choice. How are they succeeding? They are trying to disconnect kids from their parents. And how they are doing it? Again, this is very old. This is nothing new. It has been happening for so many I would say decades. There's a lot of emphasis on you, yourself, right? Your individual rights, your choice, etc. It's so fancy that kids would love to say, okay, yeah, my choice, me. But what it does is it makes them self-centered and away from the parents. So this is how they are challenging parental authority. And they are teaching kids to keep secrets that they don't even have to tell their parents, right? So especially when it comes to the gender decisions that they want to make in the schools. And this is the way how they are distancing parents from kids and then putting anything that they want in their minds. Libraries. What are they doing in the libraries? So libraries used to have books of all sorts. Now those books are being slowly and gradually they are replacing books with books that have themes that propagate the SOGI agenda. Even very old books, even some classics, they are replacing, and you will find not only in libraries, you will find in movies. I think that there might be only few left, some famous series that may not have this thing, but many of us don't know just because we are not sure of how to spot that. So in libraries, books are being replaced with books that have this ideology or these themes in those books. And the last thing here, this thinking is not just in schools, not just for kids, it's happening everywhere. You find in media and news everywhere that there's a deliberate effort to replace pronouns with genderless pronouns, he or she. They are trying to replace those with they. So slowly you will just get used to calling genderless pronouns, and you will start losing the concept of gender, which is the main idea of the SOGI. Okay, and what else? So sometimes there might be some guests, outside guests in the schools, who go who talk to children, and they talk to them about things like your feeling, how are you doing, how are you feeling inside, how are you feeling outside, and they start invoking sentiments and thoughts in kids that tell them that there's something different about me. There is something wrong about me. Maybe I'm not compatible with everything else. So this is the way they start to feel them different and lonely. And there are drag queen events, you might have heard of those. So there have been so many, and they keep happening here and there. So these are like the picture you see on your left. So these kind of events where people come with in different attire and different dressing, and they have kids and they talk to kids about so many different things, and just the look of it is one part of brainwashing, and then what they talk about it is another. And in one case, it was in the news that one of the person there, even he was a male, and but whatever attire he had, he accidentally exposed his private parts to those kids. They are saying accidentally, we don't know. But these things happen, and right now I just saw news a couple of days ago that I think somewhere in BC, I guess, there's another event happening where they are actually having a 14-year-old play this role of drag queen. So think about that. Similarly, so with all these things and with all these gender transformation agenda or the gender transformation happening, they are actually letting people who were biological males to now they identify as females, whether changed it or whether they just identified there, they can access the women's areas, common areas, anywhere, in schools, in city facilities, and like girls' change rooms or washrooms. So this is exposing women and girls to all those kind of people. Now, who is more vulnerable? Well, everybody, of course, the kids, they are being impacted. But there are some kids who are more vulnerable. Young kids, of course, they absorb everything very easily. That's one thing. Kids who are socially isolated, if they don't have friends, if they are not very active socially, they are more vulnerable to this. Okay. Those who are marginalized or bullied, especially girls. So if on your physique or your communication skills, for whatever reason, if you are being marginalized or if you are being bullied, then you are more vulnerable to adopt this kind of thought, especially girls. And I'm not talking about Muslim girls, I'm talking about in general. This information is coming from sources which are not talking about Muslims alone. So they are told that maybe if you are being bullied, maybe there's something wrong, maybe you are in a wrong body, things like that. And the last thing, kids of fighting parents. Now this is, again, this is very old. This is not new. Since I've been in North America, I've been hearing about it. Parents who are not happy with their marriage, parents who expose their kids to their problems, their marriage problems, those kids start thinking that maybe this conventional relationship is a problem. And children of those parents, they actually, they are captured by these things, and this has been happening for decades. It's not new. It's not 2023 issue. This has been happening for decades. So we need to be, we need to think about our ego and our children and move forward. So when we started talking about this, and we talked to many people, parents, teachers, lawyers, activists, community leaders, school boards, principals, and so what problems we saw, what problems we faced. First of all, we saw that there was this intimidating response from the schools and school boards. So when some of our parents went there and talked to them, asking about what's happening and what are you guys doing, they said, well, you are against diversity, you are against inclusion, you don't respect the rights of others. So this is how and the parents were just dumbfounded, they didn't know what to say. So what other arguments they make are, well, we celebrate Muslim days in Ramadan, we celebrate Eid, so your kids are supposed to celebrate pride events. Similarly, we give your kids to some space in the school to pray, then why can't your kids stand when we have a pride flag ceremony? So these are the arguments that they are making, and parents don't know what to say, how to say, well, we don't want our kids to be indoctrinated. We are not talking about anyone's rights. Right now we are talking about our rights. We don't know what to say. Politicians kept ignoring these things for a very long time, and it doesn't exclude any party or any politicians. They're all doing the same thing. They kept ignoring, and then when there were parents out on the streets last year protesting this thing, some of them started condemning them, right? So they were calling the protests hate rallies, right? Including Prime Minister, including the other main party leaders. One leader even went out on the street to do a counter rally, countering the parents. So, and if you think about the opposition, or if you think about the provincial government, what did they do? Nothing except lip service, very soft lip service, 1 or 2 statements, and that's it. They didn't take any measures. They didn't try to listen to parents. They didn't try to do anything about it. Okay, we are always talking about having some legislation to change things. There have been legislations in some provinces like Alberta and I think Saskatchewan, but this is useless. If you think about it, if you look at what that legislation does, all it does is making sure that until the kid is 18 years old, he or she cannot change their gender. They cannot do a surgery. That's all. They only talk about parental consent until the age of 18. They don't talk about anything else, like the brainwashing. They don't talk about what you are feeding to the young kids. They don't talk about anything else. So this legislation is actually, it doesn't do anything, even if it happens here. And I'm talking about even the conservative jurisdictions. Even in provinces and even in states in the USA which are conservative, the teachers are being trained to identify those potential kids who may want to want to think about this SOGI or their gender identity. Okay, and while all this is happening, the SOGI activists, they openly go on media, advocate for it, and nobody stops them. Nobody says, well, you are against any community. They don't say that you are invoking hate, but yes, when parents go out, they are all condemned. So this is what we are seeing in media, and they are being promoted. The problem, the dilemma we have is we don't know how to respond. When there are some situations like this, we don't know what to say, and we don't know what not to say. And this is what we want to learn. So what can we do? So there is a snapshot of a few things we think we can do. Of course, there are more details to everything of each of these points. First of all, know your rights. Know your religious rights. So Constitution gives you the right of practicing your religion. It's under Charter of Rights and Freedom, Section 2A. So we need to go through that, we need to understand that, and we need to know how to practice it. It's very important to know how to practice your right. Just knowing the right is not enough. Know how to practice it. We should keep talking to the teachers. We should keep raising our concerns so teachers know that, yeah, the parents are worried about something, and yes, they are not happy with this thing or that thing. So you can keep telling teachers if you are having any special event, like drag queen, for example, any event, if anyone is coming from outside to the school, let us know ahead of time. We want to make sure that whether we want to send our kid to that. If you want to talk about something that we think is not appropriate, we want to tell that thing to our kid in our own religious way, the way it aligns with our religion. So please tell us before. When you have to talk about this, whether you are filling a form for any exception, whether you are talking to any teachers or anyone outside, make sure to center your conversation around religion, your religion, not any community. So, whoever is doing whatever, when you talk about it, make sure your conversation is centered around your religion and your religious rights. you are not talking against anyone. If you want to, the conversation to be fruitful for you. And the most important thing is talk to your kids. Talk to your kids very openly. Let them open up. Because, and you don't have to be shy or angry when you hear something from them which you are not used to hear. Right? It sounds inappropriate, that's okay. You remember that there are people out there who are already talking to your kids about these things. Your kids already know a lot. There are kids here, some of those might have already heard and talked about things that you don't like them to talk, but it's better that you let them speak with you. All those things, right? So talk about everything, let them open up. So if there is something that there's a possibility that you can have a dialogue with your kid, you can tell them what you think and they can tell you what they think. If you don't do that, they will keep moving on the path, and if they are on the wrong path, they will never know. And how that will happen is, of course, educate parents. Parents have to educate themselves, especially moms. This is really, really important. And whether you like it or not, well, moms are better in handling kids than you, right? Than fathers. So it is very important that moms are empowered, they are aware, they are educated on this topic. The way moms can converse on these sensitive topics to their kids, we normally don't do that. Even if we try, sometimes we are deranged. So we have to make sure our women, our sisters, our wives, our mothers, they are ready for this and they lead it at home. They must be the leaders at home on these things. We have to be careful. We have to be prepared. So what did we do for this? So we tried different options. We talked to many people. We talked to politicians. We talked to principals. We talked to different leaders, but we didn't get any good answer from anyone. So when we didn't get any answer, we said, well, if nobody wants to do anything about it, we cannot sit back. We have to do something. We need to step up. So we need to do something because we want to protect our future generations, even if others don't want to, right? And future generations, our future generations means everyone, not my home, not my community, everyone, and not just Muslims. We have to think about everyone, but at least we can start from where we are, right? So how do we do that? Number one, educate ourselves and educate each other. If I know something, I need to tell others. If you know something, you need to tell me. So we need to have this continuous information sharing and alignment on these things, on these subjects. Learn the language, the terminologies that silence us. So when you go and talk to somebody and they say something and you don't know how to respond, it means we don't know the language they are talking, right? We don't understand the terminologies. Diversity and inclusion, they are very good things, but do we understand what that means and how that can be our strength instead of our weakness, right? So we need to learn those things. We need to learn these terminologies, and we need to be very well conversed on this language. And that means we need to learn how to respond and defend our faith and our rights when needed. Especially, like I gave an example of talking to schools or, let's say, politicians. So we need to understand how to defend. So we said, okay, let's do something about it. So we started an initiative. So what did we do? First of all, we said, okay, if we want to do all this that we are talking about, what do we really need? Right? So there is something missing that we need, which is a narrative, a logical narrative that has reasoning. So for parents as well as for children, we need the logic about what we are talking, if it is logical, and if it is logical. We want to understand that. So we need to logically convince each other we need to logically convince our kids, we need to logically convince ourselves and remove those inner doubts that we have or our kids have inside them logically with reasoning. And that's how we can prepare ourselves to defend not only ourselves but our kids as well. So that's something that we need, number one. Number two, parents need our help. So again, you like it or not, but kids, when it comes to science, when it comes to social issues, when it comes to things like that, kids don't listen to the parents. They think that their teachers know more and better than you. Even they think that their class fellows know better and more than the parents. This is how kids think. And of course, they don't know. So how do we cannot blame them because they are in an environment where they are actually told these things. So kids listen to their teachers better than parents. So if we just tell that this is something parents can tell their kids, parents will try, but they may not always succeed. Why? Because of the reason I just explained. So what do? We need to communicate the knowledge and the information and the logic to kids in the same way they are getting the other misconceptions or the logics which are not correct, which means in a class environment through a teacher. So that's where parents need our help. We need to give them the opportunity to send their kids to a session or a class where a teacher can tell them what's wrong with when there's something that a teacher is teaching you, what's wrong with that, and the parents need to have that material also, so they know at home what they can tell their kids and what their kids are being told. So parents should know what we are teaching their kids. So these are two things. So our initiative is based on those two things, and I'll explain what that is. But that initiative we are calling that focused educational series. So we are working on this focused educational series, which is for kids of all types of schools: public schools, Islamic schools, home school, group home school, private school, whichever schooling they are. They need that extra layer, which is the logical narrative. So these educational sessions are designed for everyone, and they are designed in a way you can implement it in any setup. Okay. What does our educational series do? So these are non-conventional sessions, not regular classes where you give a book or some papers to kids and to read. It's different. They are non-conventional sessions for kids, and there's some material that we also give to parents in parallel at the same time. It has logic. It is based on logic. It has reasoning of what we are saying, and it is with the Islamic backdrop. It is based on it addresses all the topics that are causing these problems. So all the topics that parents find difficult, we take one topic and we prepare a session on that topic. So if just you just take one terminology that you say, well, I don't know how to talk about it, and that is one session. So diversity, you will have one session. Nature, you will have one session. Inclusion, you will have one session. Right? Things like that. There's a list of all those topics. So how do we succeed, or how could we succeed even if we prepare these sessions? How to move forward? Number one is repetition. So this brainwashing is year round. It's not once a month. It's not just June. It's whole year. So the brainwashing is continuous. It's yearly. Not yearly. It's year round. So the remedy has to be year round. We have to have continuous talking about it. We have to continue to deliver these sessions continuously to the kids, and we have to keep parents updated continuously throughout the year. Number one. Number two, like I said before, if a kid is misguided by a teacher, the best way to fix that is to get it fixed by a teacher, which is the class environment that I mentioned. Use the correct language. you want to use politically correct language. You don't want to put parents or kids in trouble just because they misspeak about something, right? So the sessions are they are designed in a way which just talks about the issue and the solution and what we think is logical based on our religion, and it is it is within those boundaries. So, and who is it for? The audience. So, like I said before, this is for kids of all schools, regardless of their schooling mode. And why is that? It's because number one, peer influence is a very important thing, right? Doesn't matter your kid is going to which school. When after school, that kid will still mix up with other kids in your family, in your community, in the neighborhood, and will get exposed to all sorts of things that you are not letting him getting exposed in the school through teachers. But when he goes back to the school and talks to other kids, he will pass it on to the other kids. So we found that regardless of which school the kids are in, they all have the same kind of rhetoric. They talk about the same thing. They actually have the same mentality. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them. Libraries, so we already talked about what's happening in libraries. Now, if a kid is not going to a public school, right, still kids want to get books to read. And the best way is to go to public libraries because there are so many books over there. So all kids access libraries to some extent. And when they go there, they get exposed to the things that we don't want them to be exposed, right? Not exposed, but they get those things in their mind. Those creepy concepts go into their mind. So when they go to libraries, they actually get all the material that you are not giving them in schools. And then the thing is affordability. If we talk about private schools or Islamic schools, it's a good thing, but then there are limitations. Not everyone can afford because of cost, sometimes because of time, because of capacity. So of course it's a good thing that we have a school where kids are not taught those things, but still those kids need that extra layer of logical explanation, just because and especially for those kids who are not going there. So we have to think about everyone. Be proactive. Today we can say, well, I'm not sending my kid to the public school, which is a good thing, but how long? You don't know. It's just a matter of time that these guys will come after the Islamic schools, they will come after the home schools. So when this happens, you need to be prepared already for that. You need your kids to be prepared. You want your teachers to be prepared for that. So you know when this thing happens, how to handle it, right? So you have to be proactive. And this is not a replacement of anything. We are not replacing regular madrasa classes. Well, of course, those are the basic things. We need to keep having those. Kids need to keep learning through madrasas, through Islamic schools, through evening schools, weekend schools. That is, of course, absolutely needed. On top of that, we need to have these sessions that complement what they are learning, right? And why is that? Because what happens is when you tell the kids about good and bad, right and wrong, right, guna and sawab, kids listen to that, but a lot of kids don't accept it by heart. They don't say it, they don't tell you, they only open up when there's something that they have to do something which collides with those concepts. So that's why we are saying this is not a replacement, but it complements the regular madrasas and regular Islamic classes. And why everyone? Because this is a social pandemic. And what do you do in pandemic? You need mass vaccination. So think about it as the same way. It's a social pandemic, you need mass vaccination. You want to save your kid, you need to protect kids around him or her, right? So that's why we need to expand our scope to as much kids as possible. Okay. So this educational series, it's a structure. So there are different components to it. There are 6 main components. First of all, we call it the first component, we call it talking points. This is the serious logic-based narrative. We talk to kids seriously with logic about what we are saying. So kids, we are not just lecturing them on something that they may not agree with internally. They may listen to it, but they may not agree and they will not say anything. So if they have something inside which is not correct, they will not open up, and they may not try to even correct it. So what we do is we give them logic-based narrative, and we talk to them very seriously, because what they are getting from other sides is also very serious. It's not in fun. Then another part is visuals. We show some cartoons, some poems, some prophet stories that also are aligned with the same theme or with the same topic. Third part is quiz. So we do Q&A and we do dialogue with kids. In that quiz, in those dialogues, kids sometimes they can open up. They can tell you some answers which are not right, which is good. When we are very happy when kids tell us answers that we don't want to hear, because then it gives us a chance to analyze what's wrong with it, and we can talk to them, we can explain them, and logically convince them what is wrong with that. Right? And then the fourth component is activities. So we do some activity. We used to do hands-on, but now we are doing activity on the screen. Again, this is very interactive. So kids can talk about things that they want to. And then in the end, we give some tips to the kids on how to handle situations where they have to respond to something and they don't know how to. Right? And the last, we give some handouts to the parents. So we give a summary of what we have taught to the kids, a summary of the tips that we have given to them. So we give that handout to kids, to the parents. Yeah. So this series is based on, like I said, it's one topic per class, and it's about 40 minutes to 1 hour session. And the age groups that we are right now we are focusing on is 4 to 12 years. So we have two different sessions, one for a younger age group within that, for like 4 to 7 or something, and then second one is like 8 to 10. So we have two different sessions for two different age groups within 4 to 12. For kids who are 13 plus or who are grown-ups, we're working on that part too, and of course the grown-ups, we want to talk to them like equals, like adults. We want to have a dialogue with them and see what they think about things, and then we can maybe give our point of view. So that would be a different thing. It's not like lecturing them. We don't want to lecture grown-up kids. Now what we are trying to do is, after we have already prepared a few sessions, and we actually, this is a continuous work. We have been preparing sessions on different topics. Some are ready, others are not, and this is a continuous process. It will keep going on for some time. But right now we have one batch of those sessions ready. So so we are talking to masajid, we are talking to madrasas, we are telling them that this is what we have, and we want. We are just handing it over to the madrasas and the schools, weekend school, evening school, masajid, whoever can have the capacity of arranging any session for kids. So we are trying to implement this at as many places as possible, so we could reach out maximum number of kids. Right? And it's across the board, it's across the nation. So it's within Canada, we are talking to masajid and madrasas in different countries, in different provinces, not just GTA, but outside of Ontario. And we are actually even talking to people outside of Canada, in USA, and and there are people who are actually ready to work with us on this. So we are preparing these sessions. We in Ajax and in that area, we already conducted some sessions. We did in 4 different masajid, 5 different madrasas. We held sessions, but we are volunteers. We don't have resources. We are only 4 or 5 teachers, so we cannot do too much. What we need is help from parents, if you could work with us as volunteers, and in your local masajid, if you could deliver those sessions, that would be great. So masajid will have help from you. And of course, we need the madrasas and masajid to work with us and accept just take the curriculum from us and implement it. And that's how we want to proceed with, and that's what we are advocating for. So we are requesting all of you to be our ambassador, to go talk to your local masajid and madrasas and tell them about it and request them that we need this thing. It's already too late. Well, sometimes we say it's never too late. Well, it is too late. We are already late, but still we can do something about it. So we are trying to do that. So please, go and do that. And I would say Jazakallah if you are able to do it. So that's all. And at this point, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.